The Jader and Kyle show is back. It has been a while, everyone, but we are here and we are bringing you movie reviews again. As always, my name is Kyle, and joining me today is my co-host, the wonderful Mr. Jader. Welcome back,
How you
dude.
doing, sir? How you doing, man? Welcome back, dude. It's been like 6 months, right? It's been a long time. Life got in the way. New year. You moved. I think you moved by the last time we were out there. You were already out there, right? Yeah.
I was already out here. I'm still out here. It is freezing cold right now, negative temperatures.
Hell no.
I'm in the warmest room in the house right now.
I mean, honestly, right now, dude, there's like a tornado. There was a tornado warning at 4 a.m. here in Miami.
Yeah.
And right now it just started pouring, dude, pouring. But glad we were able to do this. We finally got time because our work schedule, school, all that stuff has just not been in our favor.
No.
But I'm a big fan of the franchise we're going to talk about, and there was just something that I'm like, I need to talk this film. I had the pleasure. I know we hadn't reviewed Spider-Man or 8 great movies that came out in December. I had the privilege of joining our boys over at Granny's PhD to jump on the Spider-Man review that we did. So that was a lot of fun. But we're here to talk Scream, aka, as you can see right there, Scream 2022, aka 5 Cream, aka Scream 5, a movie that I had to say, I know it's January, but probably top 3 for me, most anticipated of the year. The Batman being up there.
Well, you're going to knock out your anticipated movies pretty fast.
Oh, no. I know, man. Dude, I am huge on this franchise. I know we have some stinkers, but I still have fun with them, right?
Let's do this. Before we jump into the Scream 5, let's do a quick little round robin of what we think of the franchise itself, 1 through 4. These movies started out, I believe, 96 was the first one.
And I was in theater, not out. I can't say opening weekend or anything like that. I think I saw it a couple weeks after. Funny story of how I saw this movie. I went to go see That Darn Cat with Dougie Doug and Christina Ricci, this Disney movie that nobody probably remembers. And I can tell you very, very comfortably that I hated that movie. And I decided to get up in the middle of the movie and just walk into Scream, a movie called Scream. I don't know why a 10-year-old was sneaking around the theater back then, but I just told my aunt that I was with that, the movie bored me and I was going to go see the movie that my cousin was seeing, which was a little older than me, 5 years to be exact. So she was 15 when she went to go see this movie. And I don't know, the name, Scream. I knew it was a horror. I wasn't a horror person or anything like that, but I don't know why I gravitated towards it. And I snuck into the movie right as it was starting. That movie scared the shit out of me, right? I was a 10-year-old that snuck in to go see this movie, and it legit scared the shit out of me. But I had so much fun watching it. It was probably, I don't want to say my first whodunit because I had seen the movie Clue and all that, but I was just so intrigued by these characters. I thought they were all such fun characters. It was a fun way to look at horror, and as scary as that opening scene was to me, because that's honestly what impacts everybody. I think that's how you start a movie, and that's how you start a horror movie, right? The meta commentary on the what to do's and not what to do's, right? The do's and don'ts. But then seeing somebody as big as Drew Barrymore, spoiler alert, get brutally murdered, that it's just such impact because she was the biggest name on that roster at the time, right? And I obviously had seen horror before, but I'd never in the theater. It was always a VHS where I can skip it or turn it off, or do what I can if something gets too scary for me. But I was so scared that I couldn't move out of my seat. But I was also so intrigued. It was like a very masochist feeling, right, where I should have got out, but I didn't. And I remember getting home that day and that movie just hitting me, and I couldn't sleep that first night. I was legitimately scared of that movie. But then I kept thinking of how great that movie was, right? I was like, this movie's fantastic. Why do I keep thinking about it? Where it became an obsession where I talked to my mom about it and I convinced her to go see the movie with me, right? So I got to see it twice. And then less than a year later, as soon as it came out on VHS, I begged my mom for it, right? I was always on top of, I would go to Blockbuster and see when movies would come out, and I would beg her to take me to Blockbuster that day. And she bought it for me the day that movie came out. And I would just watch it over and over. And less than a year later, we got Scream 2, which before we talk Scream 2, let me take me through your first time you saw Scream, your first time, sir.
I mean, I saw Scary Movie before I saw Scream. We're at a
no.
different age, yeah. And I mean, Scary Movie is not a bad movie. Scary Movie is actually a really good spoof.
Oh, I love that. It's a great spoof movie.
Might be the only good spoof movie we've had in a very long time.
The reason why I said oh no, it wasn't because the movie was bad. It's just because it hits so much more once you've seen those movies.
It does hit so much more. You kind of understand. You feel like they're making fun of it, but they're kind of just doing the same thing Scream does. Because Scream, the whole appeal of that franchise is the meta thing. It's not your typical horror film. It's more of not poking fun, but embracing it and enjoying what the slasher genre has to offer. Because it's directed by Wes Craven. Wes Craven is someone who was a part of the slasher genre before Scream with Nightmare on Elm Street. He's a guy who
one of the best lines in that movie is in the very beginning of the movie when they're talking about, what's your favorite scary movie, which is obviously the tagline for a lot. I mean, the main line in a lot of these movies. And she responds with, Halloween. She picks up the knife, this and that and that. And then he tells her to guess his, and she mentions Nightmare on Elm Street, directed by Wes Craven.
Yes.
Right. And then him saying the guy with knives with fingers. He goes, yeah, Freddy Krueger. He goes, yeah, that movie was scary. He goes, well, the first one was The Rest Sucked, which he had no part of, which fantastic. It's fantastic writing.
It's great. And each Scream movie has something they want to talk about. First one is just about horror movies. The second one, they want to talk about sequels and how they can be rushed. The third one's about trilogies. Fourth one's about these 10 years later sequels. And then this fifth one is more about, what do they call it? Requels? Reboot sequels. Man. Yeah, which I really appreciated. And we'll get into that. I think every movie in this franchise is good. I enjoy every single one of them. Some of them are better than others. The first one's obviously a classic. But each of them have something to say, and each of them have their scares a part of them. I love the returning characters in every single movie with Sidney, Gale, and Dewey. And I just kind of – and Ghostface is an interesting villain. He or she or whatever it is in each movie. This killer doesn't feel like – it's good because he feels like someone that you could get away from if you thought well, but also this killer knows scary movies, understands what to do in these kind of situations. So it adds another element to this every time you watch it. I think each movie in this franchise is watchable and enjoyable. And this one, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, well, there's just certain things that don't work for me with certain parts of the sequels. Like, again, I enjoy them. I don't hate any of them. There's just some that I'm like, yeah, this is – I guess compared to the first one, it's bad, because again, I think the first one is untouchable.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think that was catching lightning in a bottle. And they were just never able to just grab that again. Right. With part two, it was my, and I can give you my rankings one right now. It's one, not including this one. Before Scream 5, it was 1, 2, 4, 3. Right. That's pretty much where I was standing. The first one I feel like it's just an untouchable film. It's a near perfect. It's in my top 10 films of all time. I just am crazy obsessed with this film. The second one, like, again, I saw opening night. What was out there the day it came out? Opening scene in a movie theater. I was in a theater full of people while watching that, and it just scares you because, again, it's meta. Yeah. Everybody's obsessing with what happened, that lightning in the bottle would have happened in the first one. People are going to go see this story in the movie while we're in the movie watching a movie about the movie, right? So yes. I even then at a young age, because imagine Scream came out in 96, the original. I was 10, like I said. Year later, 11 years old, watching this movie opening night. My aunt used to spoil the shit out of me and take me to go see all these things, right? And even then, I was like, man, this is crazy how this is written, where at that young age where I'm like, we're watching a movie about a movie, like it's us, we are those characters in that screen. And then you start wondering, like, what happens if there's somebody, a psycho sitting in that very theater? That movie was sold out when I went to go see it, and you just start to think, you're like, oh, it's cringy when you're sitting down. You're like, oh man, it's scary. It's not cringy, it's creepy, right? Um, but even as a kid, I didn't like that Derek scene where he sings to Sydney, and I didn't like the theater scene. Like, there's little parts of that, like trimming the fat, if I could.
Yeah.
Those are two scenes that I would definitely cut out, and then I feel like it'd be a better. But it's little things, little lines here and there where I was just. But I loved Scream 2 when I was getting out, and then we jumped to 3, where I really, really like 3. But I always, at a young age, thought that voice changer was stupid. I hated it. I thought it was so dumb and unbelievable. Like, I really didn't buy it. I'm like, how the hell does that work? But whatever.
Yeah.
It was, for the movie to happen, and I get it. And then we didn't get. That was the end of the trilogy. And that for me was the sad thing. That I'm like, man, that they ended on the worst one. Like, it ended bad. At least for me. Like, I just, it didn't hit that way, right? And then lo and behold, they announced Scream 4, and I get hyped, man. I get
Mhm.
so hyped for this movie. The trailer sold me. I was all about it. First day, sat down in the theater. Theater was really empty when Scream 4 came out. And I feel like I was the only one that really, I don't want to say understood the film, but really liked it out of the group that I went. It was like 5 of us that went to go see that movie together. And I think I'm the only one that was like, dude, that was really good. It fit with the society at the time, which is something that this movie does often. It hits it. When these movies come out, they feel right at home. Obviously, going back to seeing Scream 1 now, in 2022, it might feel a little dated for some people, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that Scream 4 was right on the money, right when it came out, right? And I know we're gonna talk Scream 5, but I feel like it hits it, and they understood the assignment with this film, right?
So what I appreciate right now is, so this movie talks about requels, and they also call them legacy sequels. These
Yeah,
movies where it's honoring an old thing that we liked from the past, bringing it back with new characters and using the old characters to push it forward. And they go through the list of every franchise that's done this, from Ghostbusters to Halloween to Star Wars. I mean, hell, they didn't even mention it, but Bad Boys came out 2 years ago at this point, did the same exact thing. And this movie is doing that too. It's 25 years now after the original Scream came out. And we have a whole new plot, a whole new cast, but we're going to bring back Dewey, Gale, and Sydney. They're going to be part of it to push the story forward. And you think to yourself, well, what could make this movie stand out and be different from the rest of the franchise? And it's that these directors, these new guys that came in, they did the Ready or Not films. I want to get their names in a moment.
Yeah. But they're known as Radio Silence. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I've heard that. Yeah.
It's a group of directors that are known for Radio Silence. It's Matt Bellatini Alplin. I butchered that name, and I know Tyler Gilret is the second guy. There's more of them, but it was that duo that did Ready or Not.
Yes,
together,
and now they're back.
Was fantastic.
And now they're doing this film, and that you could tell they're extreme fan. They're fans of this franchise, and I think it kind of makes it great, because I'll say this right now. I think it might be the second. I think it's the second best Scream movie we've had. Maybe like it's a contender. The first one's just a classic, but it might be the second best Scream movie we've had at this point, because they really play with the tricks. One of the things that was criticized in the original Scream, when you look back at it today, is like, she's typing on her computer to talk to police, and it's a little more difficult. Today, it's a lot more modern in this film. They have like security locks on the doors, and you have the cops are able to show up a lot quicker in these type of films now, because today's just a different day and age. And this movie plays on those tropes, but also plays on movie tropes. They know how smart we are as an audience, and they're using that against us in this film. And that's something I really appreciated. They have you guessing the entire time. Sometimes they throw out everything you're thinking on the table. Like, when I watch these films, they're right. It's usually someone in the friend group. It's someone you know. It's not just some stranger that's wandering around out there. Then in this movie, within 10 minutes, they get the entire cast together in a room. They're like, all right, guys, who did it? Which one of you is the killer? And they all sit around and talk about why each person could be the killer. And it's just messing with your mind. You never know who it is until it actually happens towards the end. So I'm in on this movie, man. I enjoyed it quite a bit. What did you think about it?
So I'm gonna piggyback off you very quick. For me, it is the second best since the original. I
Yeah.
didn't think so. I didn't think it was gonna be as impactful. It looked good. I didn't think it was gonna be this good.
Hmm.
And you just again hit the nail on the head. I felt like this movie was legit talking for me as I was watching it. Right, I had the pleasure of watching it really early. Actually, we saw it, I think like 9 or 10 days before it came out.
Yeah.
Um, and I being a mega fan, I try. It's one of those that I can't help my anticipation for this film or get excited for these films, but I do every single one of them. Every time and they can announce Scream 11, and hopefully, it doesn't get that far, but I will probably be excited and just get that little bit of hope if they continue along. And look, it happened with the Fast Five franchise,
Yeah.
where you had your first one that was great, second, third, fourth, or whatever. And I mean, not whatever, but they were like entertaining enough. And then five comes with, The Rock and all that. And it just launches this new um, era of fast movies. And look, this one's the fifth installment of the film, and it
Yeah.
hits it, right? It gets it. And just like you said, these directors are mega fans, and you can tell that they're mega fans because I didn't think they were trying to one up Wes Craven. In fact, I think they were honoring him. And at
Hmm.
the end of this film, they obviously have this hashtag, and I know I'm jumping everywhere, but they have that hashtag for Wes. And one of the main things that I have to say, which is not something you would hear in a Scream review, is love and respect. I feel
Hmm.
like these characters, I mean, these directors and writers did just that. They love and respect this franchise, right?
Hmm.
And that scene where they're meeting up, just like you said, that was the pool hall scene you're talking about, but just a little bit later, just like you said, they go and knock. So very quick for I know we're jumping everywhere, but basically what this movie is, just the quick synopsis. Even if I know if you've seen Scream, you kind of know this is 25 years after the original sequel of the I mean not the original sequel, 25 years after the original Woodsboro murders, a new Ghostface emerges and basically starts attacking a new set of teens that somehow have a link to the original,
Hmm.
right? In a nutshell, that's what the movie's about. So they have to obviously bring the legacy characters back in order to, try to see what's going on. And once they do, they immediately again just start with this is again the fifth time we do this, right? So we have some characters flat out say like, "Hey, close circle of friends. Hey, don't trust the boyfriend. Hey, do this." Like exactly what we're thinking, and then you're like, "Holy shit, bro! Why is this movie doing this? Why? How is this movie doing this?" And I loved that. Which again, standout character for me was one of the standouts at least, Jasmine Savoy Brown as Randy's niece. She was our Randy for this
Yeah.
movie, right? The one that is the basically the one that grabs the audience's hands and lets them know exactly what's going on, just like
Hmm.
Randy did in one and two, right? But I loved her because they talk about um, what horror is now, the elevated horror, right? Your hereditaries, your witches, your Babadooks,
Yeah.
your Conjuring, right? So I thought that was really genius because those are the horror movies that right now are hitting out of the park, the A24 films, right?
Hmm.
Um, and the slasher genre and all that is dead, no pun intended. But I loved that whole explanation where she's explaining what a recall is, right? Where she's talking about it can't be, you can't automatically reboot everything because the OG fans are going to be upset. So you have to cater to the OGs while catering to the new generation, right? But at the
Hmm.
same time, you're still gonna somehow piss them off because that's just what toxic fandom is, and essentially, this is what this movie's about, right? It's
Toxic
toxic
fan.
fandom,
Yes,
which
and
is
there's a
beautiful
girl.
because if you go into chat rooms, and they talk about in the movie, they're pissed off because they're saying the OG fans, the movies within the movies, which are the
Real
stab films.
fans. Yeah.
Exactly. So the stab films, right? The stab films are they're in that world, they're up to stab 8. And I don't know if you caught this, but they talk about stab 8, and then they're like, "Oh, who directed that one?" They're like, "Oh, that
Knives
guy
Out.
that directed Knives Out."
Mm.
Ryan Johnson. Ryan Johnson directs The Last Jedi. Everybody hates The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
It's little things like that that I was just, they were for me like just feeding me. And I'm like, this shit is so good. The
Hmm.
writing was so tight for me. And there was a lot of things again that you just that are on there, and you're like, holy shit. And again, there's little things that are like, I caught little Easter eggs, right? That I don't want to spoil, but there's just two things that really stood out for me. That was things from Scream 4. There's something from Scream 3 that people didn't pick up. And just me seeing those movies again, I probably seen the first one the most, one and two, probably seen them, no lie, both over 30, 50, let's say 50 times easily.
Mhm.
I used to just see those movies. Scream 3, maybe around the 15s or 20s, Scream 4, a little bit less than that. Just no time, guys, you know. But I just felt like they were again just like grabbing our hand, at least to the fans, right? And just telling us like, this is what you want. This we know why you're here, and we're still, while giving you what you OG fans want. We're gonna give you a fresh take on where we can take a slasher film, right?
Yeah.
And that was all due again to writing and directing. Another thing, the cinematography in this film, man, top notch, man. I wrote his name down. It's Brett Jokowitz. Probably butchered that too.
Mhm.
Um, but man, he like just shots of certain things, especially in the third act, that that main set piece in the main place in the third act, just the way that looked, even the picture in the background, which I specifically asked for that one, is just the way Ghostface looked in this was great, right?
Yeah.
Compared to the other ones as well. Like I just think they had some shots that were just so good. That one right there is one of my favorites, when they were in the hospital and there's some things going down where there's two characters in danger. A little
Mhm.
spoiler there, I guess. But that for me was, bro, that was like edge of your seat. Like, what's gonna happen in this scene? It
Uh-huh.
was great, man. It was great.
And the main
Uh,
duel is fantastic. I think so. Let me go over some MVPs real quick. All right. So the main girl, her name it's Melissa. Let me get it up here.
Melissa Barrera.
Melissa Barrera. She was
She's from In
in
the Heights.
In
She's
the
Vanessa
Heights.
from In the Heights. Yeah.
She is fantastic in this film. I love her as an actress, and she's a great main character in this film. And there's some good
Can I be
moments,
real with you?
huh?
I didn't like her in the first attack, which
But
was in
she,
the trailer. I felt when I saw that first attack, I'm like, uh-oh. Honestly, I was
uh,
like, oh no, oh no. Right after that, it's like, I don't know if that was like the original take or the first time, or I don't know. I don't know. But right after that, it just hits, because she has one of the best scenes in this movie, is when she talks to her sister alone in that room.
yeah.
And they just have, and for me, my standout, funny enough, was Jenny Ortega. I think she crushes this role, dude. She
Okay.
crushes it
It's
from
her
the
sister.
opening scene, the opening scene, which we all know that these movies are known for their opening scene, right? If you
Yeah.
hit the if you can hit that opening scene, you already lock in your fans. I mentioned it with the original. I love the opening scene of 2, 3, fine. 4, 4, the whole play on play with movie within a movie. If you would have done it once, I would have been all right with it. The whole trickster thing for me was a little annoying, but whatever. Um, but I felt, again, you were mentioning guys, we're talking, we're trying to steer clear from spoilers, but what we're talking about right now is legit in the trailers.
Well, then,
But
like, let me give you another shout out. I thought Jack Quaid was fantastic in this.
oh, no, they were.
From The
He was
Boys,
absolutely
he was probably my favorite character throughout the entire. There's a
funniest
scene,
character.
so funny. There's a scene where he's like trying to catch up on the Stab movies, and he's sitting on his bed watching YouTube with people criticizing like Stab 8, and they're saying like, "Oh, it's not for the real fans." There's a great moment when whenever characters are trying to do something, and he's just thinking about what scary movies would do, and he's like, "No, we're not doing that."
Yeah. No, he
It's
was, and honestly, he was, there's a certain scene where they have to go somewhere, and he's just like, this is the part where we're supposed to run. Like, what are
yes,
we doing?
yeah.
And again, they do that a lot in this movie. And again, it was great. But, again, going back to Jenna Ortega and Jasmine Savoy Brown, for me, were they definitely standouts. They were the fun character. And that's not talking about any, that's not shitting on everybody else in this film. I feel like every character serves their purpose on this film. So I am part of I follow this, it's a, like a blog forum or whatever on Facebook. and it's called the Woodsboro. Hold on, actually, I'll probably open it, and it's literally the first thing that pops up. Because give me 2 seconds. Dot, 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 dot,
Well,
dot. Yeah, Woodsboro Horror Fan Club, right?
uh,
So I didn't know that a lot of the actual, um, I think some of the production or somebody from that's attached to these films actually made that fan page, and it's like a bunch of people on there, right? Um, and there's a lot of people that love this film. It's very divisive. Like there's a lot of people that like this film, and there's a lot of people that don't, right? Saying again that it shits on the original. It's nothing to compare. We didn't have any character development for these films. For this movie, I'm sorry, there was more character development that needs to happen or whatnot. So, yeah, so I was part of this movie club called. Give me 1 second. I know I just said it, but
the
I can never
Woodsboro.
shit out to Woodsboro Horror Film Club, right?
Okay.
Which is crazy because I think that's what it says on the back of my shirt. But anyways, so I see a lot of people hate that we didn't get enough time with the new characters, we didn't get enough time with the old characters, and they're like they only centered around 3 to 4 characters and everybody else was just throwaway. I didn't feel that. I felt like everybody served their purpose with this movie, right? You have to understand that you know we obviously go into the first one and we have our Randys and our Stews and Billies and Tatums, and we had a good time with them. But they obviously, if you watch the first one, it's not really a big kill kind of type movie, right? You have your character development, which the sequels obviously want to do more of that. I feel like some of these characters were just pawns, right? And
Hmm.
that was their purpose of this film. It wasn't to give a big again, like you're not trying to get a big background stories on these characters. They served their purpose and that was it. And that was it. They're pawns, just like the principal was a pawn. Kenny the cameraman was a pawn. It's just they were these characters. We
Yeah.
didn't have any side characters to kill off. So I
Well,
think
this.
everybody served their purpose. This movie for me was top notch. The writing was fantastic. The kills, we have not talked kills. We have not talked Ghostface. Ghostface was for me at its most brutal since the original.
Yeah.
Again, not saying that they were inventive kills or that they use crazy. It's not Friday the 13th. It's not Nightmare on Elm Street. It's a la Halloween. It's a slasher film. He uses a knife, but just the way shit goes down in this movie, and even the calls for me were at their best
Mm-hmm.
since the original. Right? There's a
Yeah.
certain call, man, where he throws a callback to a certain Hitchcock film that just creeps you out, and you're like, oh my god, this is crazy, right?
Oh my gosh, everything
So
in the house for that moment. Because there's a great little line to it at the beginning with all the characters put together, and one of the kids is the son of the cop that was in the fourth movie.
yeah,
And she's in this movie too.
which
She's a regular character.
which
You see on the movie.
Dylan Minnette, and he's so great in movies.
Yeah,
I thought he was great in this as well, and it was a little tribute to him,
yeah, yeah.
uh, called because he's called Wes in the film. So I thought that was really
Yes.
cool.
Yeah, and he's got a great little this and then everything that goes through is pretty funny. But there's that moment when they're all talking together, and he's the son of the cop, and he's like, "Well, maybe it might like I might get killed," and she's like, "No one gives a shit about the shitty sequels and those characters. You're fine."
Yeah. Because they were talking about that everything's connected in the first one,
Yeah.
and then he goes, "Well, my mom's a character in one of them." He's like, "No one cares about those shitty sequels." I thought that was so great. Yeah.
It's great, yeah. If you're a Quentin Tarantino fan, there's a great little reference in this movie.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. I caught that. Like
I'm not going to say a single thing. Just keep an eye out. The directors are Tarantino fans. I'll say
so
that.
good. Yeah,
Um,
Tarantino fan. I mean, I'm telling you, man, it just kind of hits. It hits every beat that you want. It's one of the fun. It's probably the funniest Scream, in my
yes,
opinion, since the original. Great cast. I thought the OGs, which we didn't really talk about the OGs either. Um,
there
I
was just
guess
respect for
I guess
Sora.
you can call this. This is a pass the torch film.
Yes,
Whether you like it or not, this is what it is. The franchise is gonna move forward, and I feel like the OG characters serve their purpose the way it is. Spend a lot of time with them because the main focus is the newer characters.
Yeah.
But when you get them and they're great. And that's as much as I can say. You know, being a diehard Scream fan, I don't know why I wasn't too bothered by the fact that they weren't in the movie a lot. I was fine with it. You know, again, give me a good story. Give me a compelling story. Give me the meta commentary and give me the good kills. I'm going to be on board as long as these characters are good. Now, if the characters are like throwaway characters and they're really not as interesting as your OGs, I get it. But these characters are that interesting.
Yeah.
So
it works. All right, Jader, if you had to give this a score out of 10, what would you give it?
Man, I think the first one for me, at least, is near perfect 10. And this one just wowed me. It really surprised me, man. I honestly would probably give this a score out of 10, man. 8.59 out of 10. I really, really had a good time with it. I got to see it twice already. I saw it opening night again. And honestly, for me, it held up. In fact, it was a lot funner the second time because I caught way more things in the backgrounds than you can. Than I got in the original. I'm sorry.
I'm probably gonna go an 8 here. I think anything for me above a 6, probably above a 6.5 is enjoyable. Like there's something I want to go back to. And you brought up the whole January thing, putting this movie out in January. And there's usually that fear of it's probably going to suck because we always get this shitty horror movie in January.
That was honestly my main fear when it had an original slate for an earlier date, if I'm not mistaken. I think because of COVID, it got pushed back.
Everything got pushed back.
Yeah, everything got pushed back. But when it got pushed back to January, I'm like, the studio saw this, hated it, and they're like, "Hey, man, you're gonna make your money, but it's getting this." You know, it was nothing around. If you see the dates of what was coming around, there was nothing near it. So I'm like, yeah, this studio does not believe in this movie, but no.
And there's nothing near it right now. If you look at the release schedule right now for films in general, there's nothing else coming out to like Death on the Nile in February. And even that, are people excited for that? It doesn't feel like it. So right now it feels like Scream is in a good spot because it's got great word of mouth. We're at a holiday weekend right now. It's going to clean up for a little bit because people have seen Spider-Man over and over again. It can't just be that for the rest of
4 times.
Yeah,
I saw it 4 times too.
So it feels like we're going to be getting this push where it's just Scream in theaters for a little while, and I'm good with it. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. I'm happy with this film. I would love to get more of these. It really feels like a love letter to the original, but also a commentary on what horror films are today. It's not a shitty January film at all by any means. This movie shouldn't be in January at all. If it would have come out in October, it would clean up just as I would have much rather seen this in October than that shitty Halloween movie that just came out. I'll just put it.
I didn't hate Halloween. I hated like a good 30 minutes of it. I like the beginning and I like the ending of it, but it's not enough for me to say that I hated it.
Conversation.
One little quick shout out that I do want to give out is the unofficial Scream song, right? Which was Red Right Hand.
Yeah.
Right. The use of it in this movie was so great. And it had me cheesing from ear to ear once they use it. So if you're a mega Scream fan, like I said, there's so many little Easter eggs. But again, it's something that gets used in every single Scream movie. And my thought was like, man, if they use it, which they have to, I wonder how it's going to be used. And I just loved the way it was used during Scream 5. So just a little quick shout out to that. It's something that I had written down that I'm like, make sure you talk about this.
Really solid movie. I'm glad we got this in theaters right now. Go check it out if you're a fan of horror films. And that's going to do it for us, guys, on a review of Scream from the Jader and Kyle show. We're going to be back, guys. This show's not going anywhere. We're still around. So, schedules have been tough and stuff. We're still here. We're planning on making a comeback very, very soon. So keep your eye out. Jader, any last things you want to say?
No, make sure you go see this movie if you feel safe enough to do so. I promise you, if you're a fan of this franchise, even the shitty ones, there's no way that you won't like this one. I just can't. I don't know how people just don't like. I mean, people say they don't like it. So go check it out, man. Give this movie its money. I do want to see a sequel to this one, or the 6th part. And that's pretty much it, man. We'll catch you guys very, very soon. We promise. Sorry, we've been MIA, man. But again, just life, man. We're adulting,
moving on up in the world. So thank you guys. And we will see you next time very soon. I'm saying very, very soon, guys, on an episode of the Jader and Kyle show.